They say that catastrophe sounds like thunder, a car crash, a scream, a bomb going off. But I'm here to tell you that the absolute destruction of a human life is usually silent. It's not an explosion. It's erosion. It's water seeping into the limestone foundation of your house, day after day, year after year, until the sinkhole opens up and swallows you whole while you're sleeping. My name is Alara, and if you're listening to this, you're probably looking for a villain. You'll find one in me. But this story isn't really mine. It belongs to Arthur. I was merely the demolition crew. He was the architect who designed the ruin. For 14 years, I resided in what I can only describe as a masterpiece of domestic stability. We lived in a sprawling, mid-century modern home in the hills of the Pacific Northwest, surrounded by ancient pines and the smell of rain. I had 2 children, Leo and Maya, who were bright, healthy, and terrifyingly perceptive. And I had Arthur. Arthur was structure. That is the only word that fits him. He was a structural engineer, a man who understood load-bearing walls and stress fractures better than he understood poetry. He was a good man, the kind of man who checked the tire pressure on my SUV every Sunday morning before I even woke up. The kind of man who had a life insurance policy that could fund a small country just to make sure we were safe if he vanished. But in my profound arrogance, I mistook his stability for stagnation. Our marriage had become a well-oiled machine. It was efficient. It was safe. Did you pay the tuition? Yes. Did you call the plumber? Tuesday at noon. We need olive oil. We were business partners in the corporation of family, and business was booming. But the romance, the fire, it had been smothered under the weight of mortgages and soccer schedules. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of beige comfort. I was 38 years old, and I felt invisible not as a mother or a wife, but as a woman with blood still running hot in her veins. I convinced myself that Arthur was the problem. I told myself he was boring. I told myself he didn't have a soul, just a spreadsheet where his heart should be. I was lonely in a king-sized bed, lying next to a man who would have taken a bullet for me, but couldn't seem to write me a love letter. Then, I met Julian. Julian didn't walk into a room. He sauntered. He was the complete antithesis of Arthur. He was a landscape painter I met at a gallery showing I had attended simply to get out of the house. He had paint under his fingernails and a chaotic energy that made the air around him vibrate. Where Arthur was solid earth, Julian was helium. You look like someone who's holding their breath, Julian said to me that first night, handing me a glass of cheap wine. It was a line, a terrible, cliché line. But God help me, it worked. Because I was holding my breath. It started as an intellectual courtship. We met for coffee to discuss art theory. We walked through the botanical gardens. He listened to me. That was the drug. He didn't ask about the kids' dentist appointments or the leaking gutter. He asked what I dreamed about. He noticed when I changed my perfume. He noticed the way the light hit my hair. I was starving, and he was a banquet. I justified it. The human mind is an incredible lawyer when it comes to defending its own desires. I told myself it was harmless. I'm just making a friend. I thought, I'm just reconnecting with my creative side. But you don't hide friends from your husband. You don't delete text messages from friends before you walk through your front door. I began to compare them. This was my fatal error. I compared Arthur's silence to Julian's poetry. I compared Arthur's predictable Friday night pasta to Julian's spontaneous desire to drive to the coast at midnight. I painted Arthur as the jailer and Julian as the key. The first time I slept with Julian, I didn't feel guilt. I felt alive. I came home that night, flushed and disheveled, and found Arthur sitting at the kitchen table reviewing blueprints for a suspension bridge. "You're late," he said, not looking up. "Traffic," I lied. And then I stopped for gas. "Okay," he said. "Dinner is in the warmer." He didn't scream. He didn't sniff my collar. He just trusted me. And his trust didn't make me feel grateful. It made me feel superior. I thought he was a fool. I thought I was smarter than him, more complex than him. I thought I was living a tragic romance novel, and he was just an extra in the background. The affair lasted 6 months. 6 months of sneaking around, of hurried phone calls, of feeling like a teenager. I became two people. There was Mom, who packed lunches and folded laundry, and there was Alara, the muse of the misunderstood artist. I grew resentful of Arthur. I started picking fights just to justify my betrayal. You never listened to me. I'd snap because he loaded the dishwasher wrong. You have no passion, I'd say when he wanted to watch a documentary instead of going out dancing. I was building a case against him, stacking up evidence to prove he deserved what I was doing to him. But then, the atmosphere in the house began to change. It wasn't abrupt. Arthur didn't confront me. He just receded. The intimacy, what little was left, evaporated. He stopped reaching for my hand across the console of the car. He stopped asking about my day. But simultaneously, he began to expand. Arthur had always been fit, in a practical way. But suddenly, he was hitting the gym at 5 o'clock a.m. every morning. The softness around his waist disappeared, replaced by hard, functional muscle. He bought new suits, sharp, Italian cuts that made his shoulders look broader. He started reading philosophy. He started taking French lessons on his commute. He was becoming a better version of himself. But he wasn't doing it for me. I remember coming home one evening to find him cooking not the usual pasta, but a complex, aromatic risotto. He was drinking a glass of dark red wine, listening to jazz. "What's the occasion?" I asked, unsettled by the calm radiance coming off him. He looked at me, and his eyes were like calm water over deep stones. "No occasion, Alara. Just decided I wanted something better. Something better." The words hung in the air. I brushed it off. I was so wrapped up in the drama of Julian, who was beginning to get clingy and demanding, that I didn't see the predator circling in my own kitchen. I thought Arthur's changes were a midlife crisis. I thought maybe he suspected something and was trying to win me back. The vanity, the absolute, blinding vanity. The turning point came in November. Arthur's firm was hosting the Starlight Gala, a massive charity event for urban development. Usually, I had to drag Arthur to these things. He hated small talk. But this time, he was ready weeks in advance. He bought me a dress, a stunning, backless emerald gown that cost more than my first car. "Wear this," he said. It wasn't a request. We arrived at the venue, a glass-walled hall overlooking the city harbor. I felt beautiful. I felt powerful. I had my secret lover on one side of town and my successful husband on the other. I thought I had it all. Arthur was electric that night. He moved through the crowd of investors and politicians with a grace I had never seen. He wasn't the quiet engineer in the corner. He was the man everyone wanted to talk to. He laughed. He charmed. He held court. And then I saw her. She was standing near the bar, wearing a midnight blue suit that looked tailored by the gods. She had silver gray hair cut in a sharp bob and glasses that framed intelligent, piercing eyes. Arthur guided me over. "Alara, I'd like you to meet Dr. Serafina Vance. She's the lead urban planner for the new waterfront district." Serafina shook my hand. Her grip was firm, dry, and cool. "Arthur speaks very highly of your support," she said. There was a pause, a beat of silence that lasted a fraction of a second to long. "Arthur is a visionary," she continued, turning her eyes back to him. "It's rare to find a man who understands the foundation is more important than the facade." They started talking. They talked about sustainable materials, about the ethics of displacement, about the integration of green space. They spoke a language of shared competence. I stood there in my expensive green dress, holding my champagne, and I realized I was completely, utterly superfluous. They weren't flirting. It was worse than flirting. It was a meeting of minds. It was a connection based on respect and shared intellect, things I had stopped offering Arthur years ago. I watched my husband from across the room later that night. He threw his head back and laughed at something Serafina said. It was a real laugh, a deep, belly laugh. I hadn't heard that sound in a decade. For the first time, fear trickled into my veins, ice cold. I broke it off with Julian 2 days later. The fantasy had soured. Seeing Arthur at the gala, seeing him so powerful and distant, made Julian's chaotic neediness look pathetic. I wanted my husband back. I wanted to reclaim the territory I had neglected. I came home early, planning a romantic dinner. I was going to seduce Arthur. I was going to restake my claim. Arthur was in his study. The door was open. "Arthur?" I called out, holding a bag of groceries. "In here," he said. I walked in. He wasn't working. He was sitting behind his mahogany desk, hands folded on top of a single, thick manila envelope. The room felt sterile. I picked up stakes. I said, trying to smile, "I thought we could sit down, Elara." His voice was quiet. It wasn't angry. It was the voice he used when he was explaining to a client why a building couldn't be built on a swamp. It was the voice of non-negotiable reality. I sat. The air left the room. "I know," he said. He didn't ask a question. He stated a fact. "Arthur," I started to stammer, the lies already forming on my tongue. He slid the envelope across the desk. "Don't. Please don't insult my intelligence. It's beneath you, and it's certainly beneath me." I opened the envelope. It wasn't just photos. It was a timeline. Credit card receipts for the hotel rooms I paid for. Phone logs. Toll booth records. Restaurant bills. It was a forensic accounting of my infidelity. I couldn't breathe. "Arthur, it's over. I ended it today." It meant nothing. He looked at me with a curiosity that was devastating. "I know you ended it. I know you sent the text at 2:14 p.m. But Elara, you're missing the point. Whether it's over or not is irrelevant. The structure is compromised. It's condemned. I love you," I cried, the tears finally coming. "I made a mistake. Please, Arthur, we have 15 years. We have children. We do have children," he said, and for the first time, a flicker of something hard and dangerous passed behind his eyes. "And that is why you are going to sign the papers in that folder." Papers? A separation agreement. A path to an uncontested divorce. "I won't sign," I whispered. "I'll fight for you." He leaned forward. "Elara, look at the file. I have documented neglect. I have documented the nights you left Leo and Maya with a babysitter so you could go to that pottery studio. I have documented the funds you drained from our joint savings. If we go to court, I will destroy your character. Not because I want to, but because I am efficient. I will get full custody. I will get the house. I will get everything." He paused, then leaned back. "Or, you sign this. You get a generous monthly stipend. You get a nice apartment downtown that I've already put a deposit on. You get joint custody weekends and holidays. You get to keep your dignity." I stared at him. This wasn't a husband reacting to pain. This was a grandmaster moving a rook. "How long?" I asked. "How long have you known?" "For months," he said. "For months. And you let me. You acted like everything was fine." "I needed time to get my affairs in order," he said simply. "I needed to make sure the children would be secure. I needed to liquefy certain assets. And," he adjusted his cufflink, "I needed to see if I would miss you. And I didn't." That was the bullet. That was the shot to the heart. He had lived with me for months, knowing I was betraying him. And he hadn't spent that time mourning. He had spent it realizing he was happier alone. The next 2 weeks were a blur of packing boxes and silent hallways. Arthur was polite. He helped me carry my suitcases to the car. He was helpful, courteous, and completely empty of emotion toward me. The children took it hard, but Arthur had prepared them, too. He had framed it as Mom needs some space to find herself. He was the hero. He was the stable rock. I was the flighty artist who needed to go find her muse. He didn't poison them against me. He just let my own actions speak for themselves. I moved into the apartment. It was nice. It was clean. It was silent. I tried to reach out to friends, but the social circle had already shifted. They knew. They didn't say they knew, but the dinner invitations stopped coming. The phone calls dried up. Arthur had kept the house, the friends, the reputation. I was alone with my freedom. 6 months passed. The silence of my life was deafening. I missed the noise of the kids. I missed the smell of Arthur's coffee in the morning. I missed the safety I had so foolishly tried to burn down. I stalked them on social media. It's a sickness, I know. I saw pictures of Leo's soccer championship. Arthur was there, cheering, looking fit and handsome in a fitted polo shirt. And next to him, holding a cooler of orange slices, was Dr. Serafina Vance. She wasn't trying to be their mother. She was just present. She was an adult, a partner. 1 year after the divorce was finalized, I ran into them. It was at a farmer's market on a crisp October Sunday. I was buying apples for one. I looked up, and there they were. Arthur, Leo, Maya, and Serafina. They looked like a magazine cover. They looked like a unique. My daughter, Maya, saw me first. "Mom!" she yelled, running over to give me a hug. I hugged her tight, smelling the shampoo I used to buy for her. Leo came over too, giving me an awkward teenage side hug. Then Arthur walked up. My heart hammered against my ribs. I wanted him to be angry. I wanted him to sneer at me. I wanted him to look at me with longing. I wanted any emotion that proved I still mattered to him. "Hello, Elara," he said. His voice was pleasant, warm, even. "Hi, Arthur. You look great. Thank you. You too." Serafina nodded to me politely. "Good to see you, Elara." We stood there for a moment, the awkwardness hanging heavy over me, but not over them. "We're actually heading to the coast for the day," Arthur said, checking his watch. "The kids want to see the tide pools." "Oh," I said. "That sounds fun." "Well," he said, offering a small, easy smile. "Take care of yourself." He turned away. He didn't look back. He put his hand on the small of Serafina's back, a gesture of protective intimacy he used to do for me, and guided her through the crowd. My children followed him, laughing at something he said. I stood there alone among the bushels of apples and pumpkins, and the realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. He didn't hate me. If he hated me, it would mean he was still hurt. It would mean I still had power over him. It would mean I was still a protagonist in his story, even if I was the villain. But he felt nothing. I was just someone he used to know. I was a structural flaw he had corrected. He had demolished the ruins of our marriage, cleared the debris, and built a magnificent new skyscraper on the lot. I watched them disappear into the autumn crowd. A perfect, self-contained family unit. I had wanted a life of passion and drama. I had wanted to escape the boredom of peace. And Arthur, in his infinite, cruel kindness, had given me exactly what I asked for. He left me with all the drama of my own regret, while he kept the peace for himself. The truth is a funny thing. It doesn't always arrive with a bang. Sometimes, the most devastating truth is simply watching the person you took for granted be perfectly, happily complete without you.